What's up, chess player? I offer you to solve this amazing puzzle here. It absolutely blew my mind because of how simple and logical it looks like once you know the answer, and how it's pretty much impossible to find if you don't. So what I want you to do right now is to give yourself 10 or better 15 minutes and try to solve this puzzle on your own. It's wide to move and you need to find the best move. I guarantee it's gonna be an extremely useful exercise for you. Come on, my friends, that wasn't 10 minutes at all. We both know it. I understand you want just to have some fun, but if you don't want to really improve your chess and have fun, then Gotham Chess is your friend. But here on this channel, I really want you to become a stronger chess player. So, if you haven't already, really take your time and try to solve this puzzle. So first of all, I really want to give credit to Michael Adams and Philip Hurtado for making this video possible, because I have taken this puzzle out of their amazing book, Think Like a Super GM. I can sincerely recommend it to you. Doesn't matter if you're just a beginner or an international master like myself, you can learn so much out of it. So there is only one winning move in this position. Let's see if you have figured it out correctly. So of course, you always start with the most active opportunities. So rook to b7 is pretty much only available check here, and you of course must try it. But unfortunately, it only leads to a draw here. So takes, queen takes, king takes f7, the only move obviously. And then the only move not to lose it as wide is to play g5. Now, king has to go to f5, so the variation is extremely difficult for both sides, because if you go to g5, then after queen e7, you are completely busted. The king has nowhere to escape, and so sooner or later, white is getting to it. Queen to g5, king takes, knight takes e6, for example. In this variation, there is no way to stop the checkmate. So the king has to go to f5 here. Then queen to f7 check, once again the only move. King goes to g4, the only move. H3 check, king takes, queen f3, king h4, and then you have this amazing draw here, queen to f2, and you don't have to take the pawn. If you take, you're completely losing after knight takes e6, so you're just going back and forth here, and that is a draw. So rook to b7, not such a bad move. You're not losing a game in such a complicated position. So if you have chosen that one, well, don't blame yourself, but it's not the best move. I personally have played here knight to b7, which is much worse. It's completely losing. I thought I'm very smart with this move, because the point is I want to have this discover attack. And then I thought if the king goes backwards, I'm gonna just take the rook first with a check, zwischenzug, and then I'm gonna pick up the queen. And if king takes f6 happens, then I'm gonna do the same thing with zwischenzug, with queen to f2 check, king goes away, and then I'm gonna take the queen. But the problem with that, it's not the end of the variation, and there is rook to b1 check, and unfortunately my king has no squares to go. Like, if I could go to h2, for example, it might not be that bad, but here king goes to g2, and then d takes c, with a discovered check, and then I'm losing my second rook, and I mean, everything is collapsing. Black is completely winning. If you haven't found the right move already, maybe that's another chance for you to pause again and try to actually find it, because it's absolutely mind-blowing. I'm gonna reveal it right now. So winning move here, the only one, is knight takes e6. I mean, with the entire craziness going on the board, nobody knows what happens. You're just sacrificing basically your best piece in the center of the board, and there are so many tricky options here for black. Well, let's start with the most straightforward one. If you are sacrificing your piece, you must check what's gonna happen if your opponent just takes it. So the only winning move, everything else is losing immediately, but it's also the only check, so not that difficult to figure out. Rook to e1 check. King goes back to f7. Now rook b7. Another check. If you take it, then it's relatively simple, because if the king goes back, it's a checkmate. King takes, queen e7, once again checkmate in 1. But what happens if king goes to f8? It's absolutely not that simple to find out, because rook to b8, well, that's gonna be just a move repetition. I'm gonna go back. So feel free to find the move here while I'm telling you the answer. It's queen to d2, a very quiet move, no checks. But if you take it here, then it's gonna be a checkmate. And there is g5, and there is only one move that is winning here for white. You might think it's queen takes g5, but it's not. That move is completely losing, because queen takes d4, king goes away, and then queen to b2, sacrificing this queen. Can you imagine that? Just to deflect the rook, because also after rook takes, there is d4 check, and then rook takes g5, wins the game for black. That is truly amazing. So queen g5 is not the move. Instead, queen to e3, another quiet move, is winning the game, because now there is no way to stop the checkmate here. You can try to sacrifice the queen again with queen to b4 and then promote another queen, but still queen e7 is a checkmate here. Now here you might be wondering why the king went to f8 and not to g8, because here it avoids this check from h6. Well, the problem is it allows f7 check, and then king goes to g7 is a mistake, because now f8 queen, you have to take, queen goes from this side and it's a checkmate. And if you try to block the pawn, then once again rook to b8, and at some point you have to take this pawn, because otherwise it's going to promote, and then the rook can connect to the attack. So here the queen just come closer, and eventually it gives a checkmate. Rook e7 here, king f6, still not that simple at all. King e6, and now finally queen e7 checkmate. So that means that taking here the knight doesn't work for black. Instead, if you take the pawn on f6, it's even simpler. Queen f2 check, and then king goes back, queen to f8 check, king takes, and rook from e1, and here it's clear that there is going to be a checkmate. You might be wondering what's going to happen if black is going to take the rook first, because, well, if you want to avoid the checkmate, you would like to exchange as many pieces as possible. And here it's a very convenient thing that this knight from e6 is protecting this d4. That is the key pawn which is not allowing black queen to get to this king. And that is why we have time for queen takes b8. And once again, king takes e6 doesn't work because of rook e2, and checkmate is coming from everywhere basically. So that is why rook takes b8 also doesn't work. If you don't take here, then yeah, checkmate is still coming for you, so there is basically nothing you can do. For example, rook a8, just knight g5, king takes, and queen e5, checkmate. If you try to make a quiet move, let's say rook b5, which is the best move here according to the engine, then there is a check, knight d8, out of nowhere here. And the point is, if you take on f6, then once again you're exposed along the f file, queen is coming and giving you a checkmate. And if you go here, then even rook can come and help. So that's going to be a checkmate here. Queen f8, king c7, and knight e6. I mean, that is amazing here. Queen d8, checkmate. But there is a better move for black's king to f8. And now you have some checks here, but it doesn't help you. For example, knight takes c6, I'm going to just take it. And now your queen and your knight are both hanging. You have absolutely no chance to win the game. So the right move instead is rook takes a8, sacrificing the queen yet another time, because if you take it, there is knight takes c6, discover check, and after king f7, knight e5, fork, and then you're taking this queen, and thanks to the fact that the rook is controlling the a file, rook b1 is not winning the game, because afterwards you're just going away with the king, and well, you have your knight to win the game, and of course that's more than enough. Rook h1 is not that dangerous because you control this g2 square, you can cover the check. And if black tries to somehow exchange all of the pieces, you still have to be careful, because for example knight c2 is not that great. Rook h1, rook takes, and rook takes h2, and there is only one pawn left. I mean, knight b4 probably still wins, but it's not such a simple win. Instead, you should be patient and start with rook a3, because black really doesn't have any good squares, and so either you have to push your pawn, which helps because here you attack from here, and the king has to go back, or you go back immediately, but then your king can come forward, and I mean, this position is finally winning. So knight takes e6, the only winning move here, and the most important thing, the most important detail is it just defends the pawn on d4 with such an incredible move. It's not possible to take, and then white is winning. How incredible is that? Share with me in the comments what was your variation, whether you have succeeded to solve. I mean, if you did solve this puzzle, I respect you so much, because I completely failed here, not even thinking that knight takes e6 is possible. So, and also according to the authors of the book, pretty much nobody was able to solve this puzzle. So That is a completely amazing puzzle. By the way, this game has been played by 2 computers. That is why that is so non-human and pretty much impossible to human beings to solve it. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to bring your calculation to a completely new level.